Hi, I'm Ray Graham with RayGrahamStudio.com, and today I'm going to work on starting an oil painting of the Battery Point Lighthouse in California. There's a picture that we took a few years ago, and I'm going to paint that in oil paint today. If you've been following along with my blog, it shows you some of the preparation, if you haven't painted with oil paint before, to help you get started by some of the things that you need and be able to follow along as I go through some of the techniques in painting this. Just a short note on copyrights. Anybody who takes a picture or paints a painting or creates some form of artwork owns a copyright of that artwork, and you cannot legally use that without the artist's permission. So if you're going to paint along with me, I took this picture and I give you the permission to download it and to use it for the purpose of this instruction. You can download a copy at RayGrahamStudio.com. You'll see it under my blogs, and I'll also put a copy of it into my gallery. So why don't you do that, and if you have a good printer, print it off in the best color quality that you can. Or, as I'll show you later, I use an iPad as I'm working for my color quality and my quality control, and I use the paper copy as I measure to make sure I have my proportions correct. I've decided to use some different contrasting colors, as I mentioned. I'm going to put down a little bit of white because that is what I will thin any color with to get a lighter color. And for the gray portions of the rock, I'm going to use a burnt umber because I want that brown to be in the background. So you can tell that I do not put down very much paint, and then I'll get more paint as I need to. It's hard to put it back in the tube. It's possible, but once it's out of the tube, it's harder to put back in. I'm going to use the burnt umber for the rock area. I'm going to use the ultramarine light in the black area. I have a small dish of water here that I'm going to put that down to cut my various paint with. I'm using a piece of glass, which works pretty well for an easel as I'm painting sitting down. This is the number 10 flat brush. You can tell from the bristles it's not in great shape, but I'm not worried about a lot of precision on the painting. I wanted to get it blocked in, and then I'll add additional details later on. Just going to start in on some of my rocky area. And I'm doing a couple things here. I'm blocking in the shapes, as well as I'm filling in the little divots in the canvas, because I don't want those to show later on. I don't want white to show through, so this is helping to fill those in. So starting off first with my rocky areas, underpainted with brown. Okay, just about am finished with the brown. Where you see other areas in here where there's not a lot of detail, those are a darker area that are going to be closer to black. So I'm going to go in there with a blue and start to build some contrast. These areas are green. There's a little bit of grass up there, and so I'll start to backwash in there with a different color also. you can see from the darker areas of the blackness in the rocks from my iPad. And what I'm doing here is I'm going in and starting to just build some contrast to show those darkened areas. I'm going to start to mix some orangish brown in where the grassy areas are. It'll give me a contrast later, and it'll help me keep the definition of where the grass is. I'm going to add some luminous green to the blue, and that's going to be what I shape my water in with. So I'm mixing this with water. You can see on my canvas that I am keeping some distinctly different colors, which will help me later on with my shapes, and it'll provide some color that comes through the color you put on top of it, which in the art terminology is called vibration. So this is pretty much going to be monochromatic. I'm not really worried about any additional details here. The water itself is pretty monochromatic anyway, so I'm not going to worry about any waves or foam or anything like that. As I'm blending these lines together, I'm not worried about the precision of overlap, but I am trying to make sure that I don't have any white between my colors. And if I go over something else that I blocked a little bit in a different color, that's okay. A lot of this underpainting, when we get near the end, you're going to say, why did he ever do that to start with? I don't see any of that. But there's an effect there. What I'm also trying to do in this water area is make sure I don't have too much north and south, because just the lay of the water and the ripples in the water will all be horizontal. So I want to make sure that for the most part my water goes horizontal as well. I'm continuing to build my contrast out here in the sky. I've got a little bit of blue blended in here and there. I'm trying to create some contrast between this grassy, hilly area up here with trees on it and the water line. That'll help me stay on track later on. And then I want this to be relatively uniform, but I don't want there to be many lines, because this will be trees later on, so I don't want any heavy brush strokes. Okay, this pretty much has this blocked in. I'm not going to add a whole lot more detail, and I'm not going to mess with my buildings. As I do those, they'll be more specific. The colors will be more precise and refined, and so, but major areas have been blocked in the background color as the second stage to the painting.